Welcome everyone. Thank you guys so much for taking some time out tonight to get on tonight's webinar, or what I want to call a workshop, right? And I just want to first of all thank you guys for taking a couple of minutes to really invest in yourself, because it's all about we all have two types of equity, right? We got sweat equity, right, which is time, or we have equity of money or finances. And I'm doing these webinars free, or doing this community for free, because I want us to be able to, invest a little time so we can make a lot of money, right? What usually happens is you have to invest some money to get your time back, and that's ultimately the goal, but we're gonna, master the levels, okay? So tonight we're gonna be talking a little bit about branding, and what is a brand? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word brand, right? We hear the word thrown around so often everywhere. Every day you hear branding, this brand, I need a brand, my online brand, my business brand, right? But what really is branding? And I really wanted to take it really to the basics, to the fundamentals of, branding, kind of just a little, fun facts about the history of branding and where it came from, and kind of where we can go to start to develop our own personal and business brands. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Just give me one moment, guys. Good stuff. One moment. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start talking about, this is Branding 101, okay? So I want to make sure you grab a sheet of paper, grab a pen, because towards the end, I'm going to have some things I want you guys, I want this to be, kind of interactive towards the end, because when we leave this webinar tonight, I want us to be able to all go out and start to really think about how we can start to, implement some things as into building our own brands, right? So branding, right? Here's the fun fact of branding. Here's where branding comes from, guys. Did you know that branding was for cattle, right? All branding was a way to mark the cows, to say that, it was my cow, okay? That's where it all started from, branding. It was a stamp of ownership. Back in the day, it wasn't a lot of commodities, so there weren't a lot of farms, right? There weren't a lot of butcher shops. There were, certain people that were kind of monopolizing certain industries, and a way for you to be able to say, this came from a good source, or this was, this was my cattle. You had to brand it, right? That's where the word brand comes from, a stamp of ownership. And isn't that funny that right now, all of these years later in 2018, especially in our digital space, it's exactly the same thing that branding means. It's a stamp of ownership, right? And it's what makes someone be able to, identify whose product or whose service or whose brand it is, okay? So I thought that was pretty interesting, that that's actually the origin of the word brand. After, it moved from farmers and cattle, it was used on wooden boxes of wine, right? When boxes were shipped out to different, from the different wineries, it was branded with the name of the winery to say that this was authentic. This was a good source. This is where branding started. And when you think about it that way, you think about the origin of it, right? It makes sense. And it's going to be able to click a light bulb off in your head to say, you know what? My brand is my stamp of ownership. It's what identifies me. Now, a lot of times we always say, you know what, I got to start to build my brand, or I need to start branding myself, or I need to find a way to brand my business. Here's the fun fact, guys. You are already a brand. Your unique identity is a brand. Renita, you are a brand. Josie, you are a brand. Linda, you are a brand already. Now, what you want to do when you start to implement what we call branding is you just want to be able to control the perception of what other people think of you. Okay, I hope that's making sense to somebody. Branding is basically packaging an image or a story or a perception of what you want the world to see. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. So here are some really popular brands. You know you have a great brand when you don't have to see really the name of a company. You just see their logo and you automatically know what it is. Okay, so here are some of the most popular brands that I thought of. Nike, right? Apple, Amazon, Coca-Cola, right? McDonald's. Everyone know these brands. And these are some of the most popular brands in the world. And there's tons of others, right? Like Disney, that's another huge brand. Now, you have to ask yourself, what is gonna make you what's gonna be your unique identifier? Right? What's gonna be able to allow you and whatever you're selling or sharing or whatever your personal brand is or your business brand, what's gonna allow that to stand out from everyone else in the world? All the millions of people and all of the chaos and the noise on the internet, what's gonna make you stand out? So you've got to start to identify, like, what is your brand? So I want you to think about this, guys. Your brand is what people think and feel about you. One of the things, Steve Jobs, right? The innovator within Apple, he said that your brand is what people will say about you when you're not in the room. So just take a second and think about that for a second. What do people think and feel about you? What do they think? So you've got to start to figure out how you want to control the perception of what people will say and think about you, right? When you see that Apple logo, what do you instantly think about? Me, I think about, innovation. I think about the cool Apple stores, right? I think about the way that, the good customer service when you go to Apple, or the way when you go to Apple and you want to buy something, they cash you out right at the station. They don't take you to a cash register. They do it from their phones. Like, that's what I identify when I think Apple, right? I think user friendliness. I think, cool technology. Those are the things that I feel and I think about when I think about Apple. Let's use Nike for instance. What do you think about when you think about Nike? You probably say, Sophie, I think sneakers, right? Or I think sports. But if you really think about it, Nike really built their brand on great athleticism, right? Nike is affiliated or synonymous with winning or winners, right? That's the difference between a regular shoe and a shoe with that one little Nike check, right? That branding makes you feel like you are a winner or you're going to be superior in sports if you're wearing a pair of Nikes. Right? And that's just a perception of what someone feels. See, your brand, guys, it's not really logical. It's more emotional. It's what someone feels when they see your brand. Okay? And that's what you got to start to craft in your mind is, what emotion do you want to evoke when people see you or see your product or see your service? For me personally, my brand that I'm building is, I want people to think of the art of winning. A winning mindset. When they see Sophia, I want them to think, this girl, she's just helping people become their best or better their best, right? That's my passion. That's my brand. My brand is improvement, self-improvement, okay? So here's another thing, guys. Your brand is your promise. What does that mean? Your brand is your promise. Your brand is basically saying to whoever your potential consumer that this is what I promise to deliver. So what that means is that if people cannot trust the promise, then you really have no value, right? You can trust Apple. See, when you see Apple, you think about a great product, a superior product that works, that's user-friendly, that's fast. You think sleek. That's the promise. So that's what they've created their brand to be. So let's just say next year they come out with the iPhone 11 and all of a sudden it looks kind of like this. Like big and not sleek, and they would break the promise of their brand, right? And if they come out with a phone like this where they're no longer upholding their promise, guess what? It's not gonna sell. There's gonna be no value. So you've got to find out what your promise is gonna be for yourself, your product, your service, whatever it is, your business you're building, right? What is going to be the thing that your consumer can be sure that they will get or you will deliver if they buy your product? And you've got to have, that's your brand message. That's your brand, story. That's got to be consistent with everything you're doing, because if people know, like, and trust you, they'll buy from you. It's the same thing with your brand. When people know, like, and trust your brand, they'll pay for it, and they'll pay top dollar, okay? Your brand is your credibility, right? Your brand is your credibility. Like I said, with Apple, man, if their phones came out and just stopped working, I'm gonna use their competitor, for example, Samsung. Y'all remember a couple of years ago, Samsung had the problem with their, I think, S7 phone. The batteries were exploding, right? That was detrimental to their brand image, right? People love the Samsung. People were diehard Samsung and Android fans. Then their battery started exploding. Samsung still has not caught up or recovered from that yet because they broke their promise. Does that make sense a little bit? So your brand is your credibility. And that's why you have to take time to craft and build your brand, okay? And we're gonna talk a little bit about how to do that in a minute. So you've got to ask yourself, and this is what I want everyone to write down, because I want you guys to think about this, once this webinar is over. What do you stand for? What do you stand for as a person? Not even in your business, just you as an individual. Like, what are some of your values? What's important to you? What do you stand for? Because if you are the lady, I see I got mostly late women on here, right? If you are the woman behind your brand is going to be a reflection of you. So you've got to identify what you stand for, and that's going to come through your business, okay? So ask yourself, what do you stand for? Next thing I want you to ask is, how are you perceived? What do people think about when they think of you? What do people relate you to? Like when they think of, LaTonya, what do they think of? For me, I want when people think of me, I want them to think positivity. I want them to think motivation. I want them to think, improvement. I want them eventually to think success, right? Those are the things that's the way I want to be perceived. So that's the brand image that I'm building for myself. Because remember, guys, life, especially in the digital age, is not about really reality. Life is about perception. So your brand is how you're packaging yourself to be perceived by others. Okay? Here we go, guys. Here are some tips to be able to start to grow your brand and develop your brand overall. Okay? Number one, you got to be different. You've got to be different. We live in an age where millions of people are doing the same things. They're selling the same products. They're selling the same services. They're doing the same things. With the internet, the playing field is so level for everyone that you've got to figure out what makes you different. Okay, and I want you to write that acronym down, USP. Your USP is your unique selling position. Your unique selling position. What makes you different? What makes you different in the marketplace? If I'm just gonna, throw something out there. If we're all selling water, right? If we're all selling bottles of water, it's the same H2O. What's gonna make your water better than my water? Or what's gonna make your water different? Even if it's not better, what's gonna make it different so that people can perceive that your water has more value? You gotta think about that, y'all. I'm in network marketing, and in network marketing, I'm a part of a company where everybody's an independent business owner selling the exact same product and service. That's a great thing, and that's also a bad thing. Because if everyone's selling the same service at the exact same price point, why should someone buy from me? Right? Or why should they buy from you? You've got to identify your unique selling position. Why should someone buy from you rather than everyone else here on the internet? You got to figure out your unique selling position. What's going to make you different? You've got to be relevant. You've got to be relevant. In order for you to make money, guys, you've got to be relevant, right? People have to they have to care. It doesn't matter how good your product is. If no one cares about it, or it's not relevant to their lives, they will never purchase it. So you've got to make sure that you're relevant by showing people how your product or how your brand or how your service is relatable to the consumer, okay? You want to be relevant. I want you guys to write this question down, and I want you guys to do this afterwards, because in our group, I want you guys to drop your answers, because it's not only about, learning things, it's about applying what you learn. right? So I'm going to give you guys some little things to do. And I want you to really think about it and do it because it's going to help you, get better. Okay? If you had one sentence, if you only had one sentence to describe you or your product, what would that one sentence be? Okay? If you had one sentence to describe you or your product or your service, whatever it is that you have, your book, your music, what would it be? One sentence. And y'all, don't make it a long run-on sentence, okay? One sentence. The fourth thing you want to do is you want to be clear. If you're developing a brand and a brand image and a brand story and a brand message, you've got to be clear about what it is. I always say that confused people do nothing. So if your brand is unclear and people don't really know what you stand for, what it really is and how it can help them or how it's relevant to their life, they won't buy it. Confused people do nothing. And I want y'all to remember that in whatever you're doing in life, you want to be super clear, because if you're not clear, people will not take action simply because they don't know what to do. So you want to be clear. Next activity. I want you to pick one word that summarizes you or your brand. And the reason I keep using both of those is because some of you guys are on here who want to build personal brands. Others are on here who have businesses and you may want to build a corporate or a business identity. Okay, so it all depends on what you're doing. For me personally, right now, I'm an entrepreneur, but my focus right now is building my personal brand. I'm building what perception does the world see of Sophia when they see me? I'm not really worried about the service that I'm selling or the product I'm selling, because if people fall in love with me, if they start to trust me, no matter what I sell, they're going to buy. Okay? So I could be selling, credit repair today, and I could be selling iPhones tomorrow. If people, are attracted to my brand or they're loyal to my brand, they'll buy. That's why celebrities do so well in business, is because their personal brand, they can sell anything. They can endorse any product and their fans are going to purchase, are going to follow. Okay? So I want you to pick that one word that's going to describe or encapsulate who you are or who your brand is. Okay? Here's a key to a great brand. Okay? You've got to be focused on one thing. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying before. If you try to market to everybody, you're going to get nobody. Okay? So you've got to niche down or focus in or narrow in on who your consumer is or who your brand's going to talk to. You've got to identify who your market is. Who are you talking to? Who does your brand serve? You can't serve everyone, guys, because everyone in the world ain't going to like you. They're not going to be feeling your brand. So you've got to figure out who you are talking to and focus in on that. I made an analogy the other day. You got to think about light, right? Think of a big spotlight. It can light up a whole, house, a whole yard, a whole, parking lot. But you can take that same light and focus it, and it becomes a laser, and it can cut through metal. That's the power of focus. Okay? So if you want your brand to be powerful, if you want your brand to be impactful, you got to focus in on one thing. Your brand must guarantee quality. Quality. Okay? That's what statistics have shown, that people will pay 20% more for a brand they trust. Y'all ever went to like CVS or like a pharmacy and you see Tylenol and then you see the generic brand? Y'all know that's the exact same thing, right? Exact, like no different, except the label on the Tylenol. But people still pay $3 more for Tylenol because they trust the brand, right? They trust the quality. I have so many friends, because I buy generic pills, like ibuprofen, I buy ibuprofen. And my friends like, why you got this cheap stuff? Where's the Advil? I like, it is Advil, okay? It just doesn't have Advil stamp on it. It's a brand. So you want to figure out how you can have people feeling that same way about what it is that you're doing. Okay? It guarantees quality. Your brand has to evoke desire. People got to want it. You got to want it. Do y'all, how many of you guys have ever been in the mall when an iPhone just came out and you see the line wrapped around the whole mall for these phones? It evokes desire. People feel like they are going to lose their minds if they don't have one. That's great branding. You know, Nike, Jordan shoes. People are fighting and sleeping outside Foot Locker for some sneakers. That's phenomenal branding, right? It's focused on one thing. It guarantees quality, and it evokes a desire for people to want it. A great brand also makes you feel like give you a sense of belonging. It makes you feel a part of a community, right? Y'all ever hear them say Team iPhone? Like if you are an iPhone user, you will go to war with the Android user, right? And vice versa. You have a sense of community. People who wear sneakers, they have whole forums and communities, you know, of these sneakerheads who pay hundreds of dollars for these shoes. It's a sense of community. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're building or whatever you're developing, when you're starting to craft, you know, what it is that you want your perception to be, you've got to make sure that you're tapping into these things. You want to be focused. You want to guarantee quality. You want to evoke desire so people want it. And you want people to feel like they have a sense of belonging. All right? Now we get to the good stuff. Why do you need a brand? Why do you need a brand? Not just because people on the internet say you need a brand, right? Or because you heard that's what you need to do. The reason you need a brand is because it makes you stand out from your competitors. It separates you from everything else in the market. Okay? It's going to give you, it's going to provide clarity for you and your product or your business. Your brand also helps you know what to communicate. What do I mean? If you say, I'm just going to use myself, okay? Because it's easy for me to use myself, right? If I say my focus on my brand right now is helping people better their best, helping people become the best version of themselves, helping people improve. If that's my brand or kind of the message that I'm giving in my brand, it's going to help me know what to communicate. Now I know what I'm going to be talking to my consumers about or how I'm going to be marketing my products. I'm not just going to start talking about, you know, some random stuff. My brand is not going to talk about the food I like to eat, right? Because it's just not in line with what my brand is. So when you define the brand for yourself, it's going to keep you focused. It's going to keep you on target because now you have a checklist to say, this doesn't match up with my brand. You know, I don't need to talk about this because this has nothing to do with my brand. Like I want to do self-improvement, right? So I can even get to the point where I start to talk about maybe, you know, eating better because that's a part of self-improvement. You want to improve your health. But I probably won't talk about, you know, relationship breakups, right? That has nothing to do with my brand, unless it's something that's going to help the person improve. But you guys get what I mean. Your brand helps you define, you know, your message. It helps you stay on course to know what to communicate. A brand promotes loyalty. Okay? Your brand promotes loyalty. You know, I keep going back to Nike and Apple because they are so good examples of, you know, brands because they touch on all these things. Apple and Android users or Samsung users, they are loyal to these companies. It promotes loyalty because it creates what? A sense of belonging, sense of community. By having a brand, it also helps you build business growth. What does that mean? If people trust your brand and what your brand message is, you can always introduce new products and new service and they will trust you because of the brand that you built. Again, that's kind of like, you know, celebrities. If Beyonce comes out right now with a line of bed sheets, people will go crazy for them bed sheets, right? Because of her. She's built such a brand of greatness that you believe that those sheets are going to feel like you are a queen. That's building brand loyalty. That's going to help her be able to tap into so many different business avenues because of the brand that she's already built. Okay? So those are the things you want to think about. Your brand also helps protect your business. Because if something was to happen or go negative or go wrong in your business and people love and trust your brand, they're going to defend it. It may not make or break you. Like, let's just say an iPhone came out next week that had some bugs, right? Things were wrong with it. You know, like, I'll say like maybe 2 years ago, I think like with the iPhone 6, the map in the iPhone, the map app was totally messed up. Like it was giving wrong directions. It was horrible. But people still buy the Apple. You know, they were like, okay, we'll just wait for them to update it, right? It protects your business. People are like, no, I ain't buying no iPhone because they messed up on the app. No, because of the brand they've built and the brand loyalty they've built, they protect it. They're good, right? They're good. I mean, this may be the wrong thing, but it's the first thing that popped in my mind. Even like Bill Cosby, right? He's going through what he's going through right now in the media. I don't know if he did it. I don't know if he don't. But because of the brand he's built over the years, a lot of people, even if he did it, there's so many people who are like, no, he didn't. They don't know him. They wasn't there. But his brand identity makes him like, nah, he couldn't do that. It protects him to a certain degree, if that makes sense. Okay? So that's why you need a brand. Now, I just want to give you guys a couple steps to help you start to discover your brand. Okay? These are the things I want you to think about when you get off this webinar tonight. And I really want you to put some thought into this, because this is going to help you. If you like take these 3 steps serious, you'll really be able to identify and carve out what your brand is. Okay? The first thing, what is your passion? What are you passionate about? What's passion? Passion is intense enthusiasm. Okay? I am passionate about what I do. I think it's evident, right? It exudes out of my videos. When I'm on the phone, you can tell I'm passionate about what I do. My passion is improvement, self-improvement, and helping others improve. Okay? So you've got to ask yourself, and I want you to figure this out. I want you to write down, what are you enthusiastic about? Like, what makes you scream and shout and get excited? What is that thing? You know, for some people, you know, I'm working with a new music artist now, and her passion is music. Like, she loves music. She loves performing. She loves songwriting. That's what makes her happy. And I like to kind of say, what are you enthusiastic about, and what really genuinely makes you happy? What makes you happy? When was the last time you really sat down and said, you know what really makes me happy? People don't really ask you that often these days. They don't really care, right? But you got to sit down and ask yourself, like, what are you enthusiastic about, and what makes you happy? That's number 1. What's your passion? Number 2, what is your mission? What is your mission? Your mission is your strong ambition or your calling. What do you feel is that God-given purpose for your life? What do you think you were put on this earth to do? We weren't put there just to pay bills and go to work. I can guarantee you that, right? One of my mentors from afar, you know, he's from the Bahamas. God rest his soul. He died a couple of years ago, Dr. Miles Monroe. He said something that says, you know, your job is what you're paid to do, right? Or your employment is what you're paid to do. But your deployment, right, was what you were put on earth to do. It's a difference, y'all. You got to figure out, you know, what is your mission? Okay, what is your mission? What makes you different? Number 3, what makes you different? What makes you different from everyone else? Sorry, right? What makes you different? Those 3 questions, I need y'all to write those down. I really need you to answer those, and I want y'all to answer it in the group. And we're a community, we're a family, so no need to be embarrassed. No need to, you know, this is going to help all of us grow. What is your passion? What is your mission? And what makes you different? If you can come up with those 3 answers, you can now define your brand. Once you come up with those 3 things, guys, what I want you to drop in the group is this. I want you to create one sentence that pulls together your passion, your mission, your beliefs, and your differences. When you pull those together, you just identified your brand. Okay? So I need you to create one sentence that pulls together your passion, your mission, your belief, and your differences. One sentence. Remember at the start of this webinar, I said, if you had to wrap it up in one sentence, what would it be? This is how you get that sentence. Okay? Pull together your passion, your mission, your belief, and your differences. And the next thing I want you to do, I want you to write down your story. We don't often introduce ourselves. We don't often talk about ourselves. We talk about others, right? I want you to take a couple of minutes, like sit down for half an hour this weekend and write down your story. Who are you? You know, who are you? Who's Renita? Who's Lila? Right? Who's Josie? Who are you? Write down your story. Because a lot of times we ignore our own story, but our story is what's going to allow you to identify what you've been through, what you want to go to. And it's going to allow you to see in that growth or in that period what your passions are, your missions, your beliefs, and what makes you unique. Okay, so write down your story. And then I want you to just pick your 2 to 3 top colors. I know that has nothing to do with anything, but that's going to lead us into our next branding session. Okay, I just want y'all to pick 2 or 3 of your top favorite colors. That if you had a business, if you had to create something, what would those colors be? Unfortunately for me, my favorite color is black, you know, so it's kind of boring, right? But if you see my logo at the top right, it's a black and yellow, right? Like a big school bus, okay? So I want you to pick your top 2 and 3 colors, and that's gonna lead us into our next session, which is gonna take us throughout the end of this one, okay? I didn't wanna talk tonight about creating your logo because most people think that your brand is your logo, your website, you know, that's what you think your brand is. That's your brand image. But you can't create a brand image if you don't know what your brand is. Does that make sense? We do it out of order. You know, most people I talk to, you know, when they start new businesses, and my friends talk to me about their business ideas all the time. And the first thing they say to me is, hey, I want to do this clothing store. Okay, what kind of clothing store? I want to do men's clothes. I'm telling you all a story about one of my friends. He's like, I want to do a men's online boutique. I said, okay, cool. Tell me a little bit about the idea. He said, okay, I want to sell clothes online. It's going to be called Social Citizen, and here's the logo. I'm like, okay, the logo is fly. It looks good. So who's your target customer? Men. I said, no, that's not going to work. Which mind? Like, what does your ideal client look like? You know, what does who are you targeting? What kind of clothes do they wear? You know, are they business professionals? Is this streetwear? Because when you define your brand, it defines everything else for your business. Now you can target exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Does that make sense? Because when you identify your brand, it's going to tell you who your audience is. It's going to tell you, what you need to do in order to, give them a sense of belonging. So I didn't want this to be about logo and colors and websites, and we're going to do that in the next one. But I need you to identify your brand first, as far as what are you passionate about? What's making you different? You know, what's going to pull what's your perception, or what do you want your perception to be, or what do you want you to be perceived as? Okay? So I want you guys to all come up with that one sentence that pulls together your passions, your beliefs, your mission, and your differences. Okay? And moving through in our next session. I don't know. I can't see. Okay. Hang on 1 second, guys. Okay. Yeah, so the last thing and we're gonna move into our next session, okay? Our next branding workshop. And I'll let you guys know when it is, because next week isn't gonna be branding again. Or I might do it through the week, but we're gonna touch on different things every week in this community, okay? It's not all business. It's gonna be some money things, investments, finance, credit. It's gonna be so much that we talk about in this group. But for our next branding workshop, and I will let you guys know when that is, we're gonna talk more about the visual of your brand, okay? What does your brand look like? That's why I wanted you to plant the seed of, think of those 2 colors, your top 2 or 3 colors. What does your brand look like? We're gonna talk about logos, okay? We're gonna talk about website. If you're gonna have a blog, if you're gonna have a vlog, you're gonna choose your medium. Some people don't like video. I love video, that's my medium. But some of you guys may be amazing writers and you may blog. Some of you may vlog. Some of you may be great on the radio. It all depends. We're going to be able to identify what your medium is going to be. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite tools that I use to create my brand image. Okay? It's a free smartphone app that's gonna blow your mind when I show you how easy it is to make your stuff look like you spent $1 million on it. Okay? So I'm gonna share with y'all some of my tools and some of my tips and tricks to help you guys start to look, you know, like $1 million company. Because one of the things I want each and every one of you in this community to walk out of, and what's gonna make you guys so special from everyone else, is that you're gonna start to implement these things we're learning. You're gonna have a brand. Your brand's gonna look amazing. You're gonna be able to know how to stand out. How you're gonna have a unique selling position aside from or outside from everyone else that you work along. Okay? So guys, I hope you guys got some value from this. You know, if you did, definitely let me know in the group, you know, 1 or 2 of your takeaways, maybe something that, you know, may have turned the light bulb on that you did not think about prior to, you know, this webinar. And, you know, I really want you guys to share, because we are in a community. I don't want this to be a monologue, right? I want this to be a conversation. And that's what this is all about, for us to better our best, you know, for us to ask questions and collaborate with each other, because you may have a strength that I'm weak in, you know. Lila, you may have a strength that, you know, Linda's weak in. Daryl, you may have a strength, you know, that Josie's weak in, or Tasha's weak in. And that's the whole purpose of this whole community. So I hope you got some value. If you did, definitely let me know in the group one of your takeaways. And if you got if you got value, you know, just post something online and let them know you enjoyed this webinar, because we're trying to grow this community, okay? And I want you guys to invite people that you know are like-minded, just like us, to come in here and better their best as well. So I appreciate you guys. I recorded this. I'm gonna have the replay posted in the group for you to rewatch if there's some things you want to take away. But I appreciate you guys so much for getting on. It means the world to me that you would, you know, allow me to pour and add value to your life, and I hope I was able to do that tonight. Okay, thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the group and I'll get those answered for you right away. Y'all have a good night. God bless. And I'll be in Atlanta tomorrow. All right, talk to y'all soon. Good night.